this series talking about the reality of God. If I'm not mistaken, since Savior's Day, myself and the panelists have been able to do two, and this is the third one. So tonight, you see that the theme is, I say the theme, or the focus, or the topic focus is the black man is God, right? And as I said before, we know that we are going to encourage everybody to submit questions. And we know that many people have a lot of questions specifically about Master Farrakhan Muhammad, but we're going to ask you, you can still submit those questions, which we are saving those questions and archiving them, that we're going to have those questions addressed, God willing, when we actually get to that particular topic. But tonight, as we're here on I have a testimony, we're going to talk about the black man is God. And if you're familiar with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have to tell the truth that phrase, that language, that description came from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So myself, along with our panelists, and let me bring, as they say, our distinguished panelists on. We have our brother Abdul Muhammad. Thanks. Assalamu alaikum, brother Abdul. There.
Wa alaikum salam, my brother.
There he is. Bless you, my brother. Then we have brother Sultan Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam, my brother.
Gotcha. And Dr. Wesley Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, Doc.
Wa alaikum salam, brothers.
Thank you all, man.
How you doing, my brother?
Excellent.
Thank you all for taking the time out to be on this show to deal with this topic and to put this out, I don't know if the word, in this stratosphere online, where now when people have questions about these critical aspects of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they can get it from people who are actually students of the number one representative of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in our midst today, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. You don't have to get it from people who trying to do, they're getting their dissertations on the Nation of Islam, have never really studied the teachings. And before we get into the discussion, as I attended Xavier University, I was in the African American Studies class, and the professor was writing a book about the Nation of Islam. It was about Islam in America, but a chapter or so was going to be on the Nation of Islam. And when he found out I was a Muslim, as we were talking, I asked him, I said, have you ever heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speak in entirety? And he had not heard a full lecture by the minister. And I'm like, but you about to write a book that's going to talk about the Nation of Islam, and you haven't heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan before? And it just so happened that during that time, the minister was traveling, and he was going to be in New Orleans some weeks to come. And I sold him a ticket, and he actually came out. So we have people writing stuff about the nation, and they don't really have any real connection, about the nation and the theology. All right. So here's the title. We're going to get to the questions. And for those who are watching, if you have questions, make sure you put them in. You send them in the chat. And we're specifically talking about the black man is God. And I'll start off. So what does this statement mean when people hear this? The black man is God. What does it mean? And what does that statement mean for some people? How would you explain it? Anyone?
I may.
Go ahead, Doc.
Let me open commenting on a point you made in your opening, in which you've made in the last two openings. The audience, we have a lot of questions on Master Farrakhan Muhammad. Some might ask, this is about the reality of God. Why y'all taking so long to address Master Farrakhan Muhammad? What you have to understand is that Master Farrakhan Muhammad, his reality is not the foundation of the truth of God. His reality is the capstone of the truth of God.
Come on, that's right.
To properly understand and appreciate him, to understand his godhood in its proper and full context, we have to have an understanding of the foundation of the truth of God.
Come on.
We cannot properly understand Master Farrakhan Muhammad as God. We cannot properly understand Allah came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad without understanding man is God, without understanding the black man is God. This is a foundation that has to be grasped first before we can properly understand and appreciate Allah in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. So I want to open with that. I will allow my brothers to take it further, if you will. We can double back on the specific question of the black man is God.
Beautiful. Thank you for laying that base too. Go ahead, brother Sultan. You want to talk about that? What does it mean when we make this statement? The statement, the black man is God.
Yes, sir. And thank you, both of you, for what you got us started off with. I think that as we begin this discussion, that, you know, it's critical to lift up where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us on various occasions. One that comes to mind is Savior's Day 1991. That is titled, Who is God? Where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan lays down really a theological argument that is invincible regarding the reality of God as a one titled the supreme being meaning that which exists. And he goes through the science of how everything exists in one form or another. But make a long story short, he makes it clear that this supreme existence is this human form. It is the human being. And as the human being is the one who is made in the image and the likeness of the supreme being, not a different one, but supreme in knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and power, that then if we can acknowledge that there is no intelligence, there's no existence higher than the human being, then what of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad point to is a fact of historical truth, of biological and genetic proof that the original of the human beings is the black man. So it is not a statement of black supremacy or any kind of dogma. It's just the truth of the matter that's made in a strong and short statement, but one that has to be unpacked. And of course, I think we'll be doing that tonight.
Beautiful. Thank you. Brother Abdul.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum, my brothers, and assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters who are in our viewing audience. I want to take us to this Holy Quran verse in the Holy Quran, chapter 30, verse 30, where it says, so set thy face for religion, being upright, the nature made by Allah, in which he has created man. And then it says there is no altering Allah's creation. So when we look at this Holy Quran verse, then Allah is telling us that man's nature, as my brother just stated, as Dr. Wesley just stated, man's nature and God's nature is one and the same. So this is what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches. And my brother, student minister Sultan, just said that the greatest creation of Allah is the human being. I quoted chapter 13, verse 30. The Arabic word for nature is the same word when we celebrate our Eid feast, Eid al-Fitr, right? Fitr is the Arabic word for nature, and all it means is the natural disposition. So in Islam, we don't teach that the nature of the human being is to do evil. The nature of the original man is to do evil. We don't teach that. They may teach that in Christianity.
Right.
In Islam, we do not teach that. God's nature and the human being's nature is one and the same. The thing that happened to us is that, of course, we know we were brought to America. We were robbed of our name, language, culture, God, religion, and turned inside out. And we are not in tune with our nature. But the nature of man and the nature of God is the same. The Bible says it like this, that we're born in sin and shaped in iniquity, meaning we're born in a world that was already sinning before we got here. As much as we complain about these young brothers, y'all call them YNs, they black on black crime didn't start with them. Teen takeovers didn't start. As much as you want to say how crazy they are, none of what you see them doing started with them. They were born in a world that was doing evil before they got here. And then they were shaped in iniquity, shaped by television, shaped by music, shaped by movies, shaped by the public school system. But the real nature of the human being, the real nature of the black man is the same as God's nature. So says the Holy Quran. So then if God wants us to get back, since there's no altering Allah's creation, then how does God take a people who are turned inside out and upside down and not in tune with their nature? How does he get them back to the nature, which is God? And we know that the way he got us back to the nature, which is he himself, is that he came to share his nature with us. And he came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. But as my brother said, in order for us to better understand that, then we have to have the foundation that the black man, the black woman, the nature of the black man and woman is the same as the nature of God himself. So I'll just bring it from that point from the Holy Quran.
Thank you. And now we have our other brother. Let me bring him on, then we'll go to you, Dr. Wesley. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Dimitri.
Wa alaikum salam, Minister Willie and the brothers. How are you all this evening?
Alaikum, sir.
My Allah's grace. Thank you for joining us, man. And what we're talking about right now, we're going to go to Dr. Wesley. And if you feel free that you want to chime in, please chime in. The first question that is open, it is just explaining this statement. What does the statement, the black man of God, the black man is God, actually mean? So what do you say, Brother Dr. Wesley?
Yes, sir. So, brother student Minister Sultan struck the right opening note in terms of answering that question. God is the supreme being.
Come on, that's right.
The highest form in existence. It is a scientific, genetic, historical, scriptural, and theological fact that the highest form in existence is not just a human being, but specifically the black human being. By all metrics, the highest form, ergo the supreme being, ergo God, is the black man, the man who is black, not black simply socially or philosophically,
that's right,
but black scientifically. The blackness of the black man has a real existence, a scientific, mathematical reality. So in the black man, God began being a black man when God originated himself, the creator of the heavens and earth. So I don't want the world to continue under the false impression that some ambiguous language lures us into, that there's a distinction between a black man on earth who is like God as distinct from the real God, the creator of heaven and earth. No, that is a false dichotomy. The creator of heaven and earth was the first man, black man in existence. The last point I will make on this, and then I want to hear from our brothers. I want to correct a very errant thought that is popular. The teaching the black man is God was not a social psychological experiment on the part of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, a teaching that was conditioned by time and circumstance of Black people who hated themselves. And once Black people matured and had better self-awareness, we can jettison that aspect of the teaching? No. By saying that, you are presenting that aspect of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as trash. Everything that is in your and my trash can right now is the remains of something that was once useful, but it outlived its utility. So we throw it away. We throw that part of it away. The wrapper had value when it was covering, right, the whatever the bread. Mm-hmm. But once the bread was gone, the wrapper had no more value, so we threw it away. We treat this aspect of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that way. Understand this. Mm-hmm. This statement, the Black man is God, is not a temporary socio-conditioned statement whose truth value is limited. It is an absolute fact, not just that man is God, but the Black man is God. And there's never a time that's going to come that will make that a lie.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Brother Dimitri, you had anything you wanted to add on?
You know, I'm just really enjoying the commentaries of my illustrious brothers, and they are, as they always are, extraordinarily beautiful and profound. And so I'm excited about tonight's conversation, because in all of my life in Islam, this quite frankly has to be my favorite subject. And it's fascinating that all of the critique of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in mainstream spaces at least, has always or frequently revolved around the idea that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the white man is the devil.
Come on.
Most of the time, you never hear that he teaches that the Black man is God.
Right.
Come on.
And so for us to be having this conversation, I think is extremely important, particularly when we consider many of the other events and circumstances that are taking place currently in the world, where the white ruling class in America is ramping up their war against our people and are fighting us on many different fronts. I remember the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan saying years ago to the white rulers of America that when you read in the scripture that it says that you should honor your mother and your father, that your days shall be long in the land that the Lord thy God has given thee. He was saying this to the Caucasian people and how they should treat the original Black men and women who are in fact their fathers and mothers. And so as we talk about a subject like the Black man is God, we're talking about a very controversial subject within the context of our history in America and the prevailing view of Black people in American society as being the farthest thing away from any notions of divine. We have to pause and check the scene to appreciate that at this late date in 2026, Black people are still the public face of crime, the public face of violence, the public face of deadbeat fathers, the public face of incorrigible youth and bad mothers. And so what Allah revealed to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad relative to the Black man being God is at the heart and the core of what it is to have the knowledge of self.
Come on, that's right.
And so our people need this kind of knowledge and wisdom now more than ever. And I was so happy to hear Dr. Wesley address what sometimes is an elephant in the room, and that is the false notion that this teaching from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is somehow reverse racism,
Right.
or something that he invented because, you know, Muhammad just loved Black people so much, and he saw how we had been destroyed and were haters of ourselves. So he created a mythology to ameliorate our brokenness. And so I'm happy to hear my brother say, and I will say that when Dr. Wesley says that the Black man is God, is not some artifice or not some pastoral device being used as a psychological aspect to the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but it is in fact scientific truth.
Absolutely.
It is historical truth.
Absolutely.
It is scriptural truth.
Absolutely.
And it is even cultural truth.
Absolutely.
And that those of us who are the students of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan are not in any way, shape, or form seeking to back away from this root that has given birth to the Nation of Islam. But if anything, in this modern day and time, we are more confident, more resolute, and bolder in asserting that this is a truth that was revealed to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad by Allah in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. And we are living in a time where we as believers don't have to be afraid anymore to publicly declare what we believe.
That's right.
Well, I am one of those who bear witness that time and circumstances are in a grand conspiracy to vindicate the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And what Allah revealed to him says that each and every day that I live, I can hardly escape a development, a news story, a scientific discovery that the author or the scientist behind it, we can now use as an expert witness to bring to the witness stand in defense of Allah, his messenger, and the truth. So I'm excited about this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Well
and the other thing, and thank you for that response as well. Listening to you all, you know, this, just as when you said, Dr. Wesley, when we first started this off, and we were talking about the reality of God being a man, just as you stated that we're not asking a question, we're making we're declaring a statement of truth. The same is true for this, the Black man is God. We're not asking a question, we're declaring a truth. And this is also a part of the reality of God, understanding this truth. And as Dr. Wesley pointed out, this is not just something, just a feel good. They're just saying this as a way to counter our self-esteem being destroyed under this world of white supremacy. No, this is part of the work of that seventh angel in the book of Revelation who comes to make known the mystery of God. I think if those who are watching this go back and watch the previous parts of this series that we did, I think within very clearly it's been proven that God is a man. So we know if God is a man, then God has to have a skin color. We're looking at it from that physical standpoint, right? But as Brother Demetric said, this is a historical fact. This is a scientific fact, right? This is, and even a theological fact. Once people get past all of their emotions, and as Black people, if we came to understand and accept this truth, it would help us to understand that it will help us to understand that how we have been able to survive as a people under these last 6,000 years, right? Because there's a power that's backing us, that supports us, but there's also a power that's in us, right? And so we'll go to this next question. So how is this teaching different from traditional religious ideas about God? I know it's kind of obvious, but how is it different? Anybody want to respond to that? How's this teaching about the Black man is God? Go ahead, Doc.
Again, you struck the right nerve. It's different because this teaching was withheld from the public, and it was with the sounding of that seventh angel that the mystery of God would be finished. That means prior to the sounding of that angel, prior to the ending of the mystery of God, God's reality was a mystery, and that means everybody who believed in God believed wrong. So that's this errant belief that has prevailed during the time of the mystery of God. That is traditional belief about God. At the end of time, that seventh angel will sound the secret, the mystery will be finished, the secret will be revealed, and it will sound so jarringly different from everything that the world had thought it knew about God during the time of the mystery of God. And that's how you know that's the truth. If this revelation sounded like traditional religion, then you would know then it's not the truth. Because when the secret is revealed, it will be so different from the traditional understanding, because the traditional understanding is a product of God's reality being kept secret.
On. So would any of you all like to explain that? How is it different from the traditional religious ideas of God that are being taught?
I would just to add on what my great brother just explained so clearly, is that when you look at the reality of God as we are given in this teaching, of course, it is staunchly different. And because it is so different, it produces much different results.
Come on.
A poster today walking down the hallway that said, strive for progress and not perfection. And I said, well, that is the teaching of this world. And that comes right in line with the religious teaching that is traditional in this world, that has people of a mind to worship God. But when we come to the reality of God, yes, we worship him, but we also are brought into a knowledge that makes us to strive to become him.
That's right.
Become like him. So
Come on.
Striving for progress, we're striving for perfection. We're striving to be like the God that we say we worship, because we are him. We are from him. And if it was not possible, Jesus wouldn't have said in the scripture to the disciples, be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. Well, come on. That is the one that we believe we walk with today. That Messiah is opening up the way to perfection, because he represents the perfect God, and he is showing us the way to be like him. So I would say that's the big difference, is of course the way it's presented, but then the effect from that proper presentation of the true and living God, then you see the fruit of that kind of Islam. You see true and living gods coming up.
Come on.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else, or we will go to the next question?
Yeah, I want to just add to that, to what Brother Student Minister Sultan just said, and my brother Dr. Wesley. You know, every book that is written on the life of Prophet Muhammad, it doesn't start with the revelation of the first verse of the Holy Quran in Mecca. Every book that is written on the life of Prophet Muhammad does not start with Prophet Muhammad. Every book that is written on the life of Prophet Muhammad starts with the condition of the Arabs before the advent of the prophet.
That's right.
Because the greatest evidence that Allah, God, raised up a messenger, a prophet among them, is the transformation of the Arabs from a backwards people that were in darkness, that were burying their daughters, that were calling their wives their mothers, that were robbing people on the street, that were singing filthy poems in public assemblies, that were treating the orphans and the widows without justice. The greatest evidence of the presence of God among the Arabs was the transformation of the Arabs after the word of Allah had come among them. So when the Muslims fled to Abyssinia after they were being persecuted in Mecca and they got before the king, they didn't have a chart and a graph and a this and a that to say that God had visited, God had raised up a messenger for them. They told the king what their condition was before Muhammad was raised up and how Muhammad's word transformed their life. This is the greatest evidence that we can present of the presence of God. So now, if we as a people were in the worst condition than the Arabs, because the Arabs were speaking Arabic in Arabia when Prophet Muhammad was raised up. When Prophet Muhammad was raised up, he went to the Kaaba that was built by Abraham and Ishmael. Right. So, and if you study the history of the prophet, there were people at that time that worshiped the one God. They all knew about Allah. They just associated partners with Allah. But when you look at it, so they weren't as far off of the path, is my point. They were, even though they were in a horrible condition, they were not in the same level of darkness as the black man and woman in America. So the greatest evidence of the presence of God is the transformation of those who accept what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches, that the black man is God, that you're not looking outside of yourself for a God in space or in the atmosphere, that God is in each and every one of us. And I just want to read this real quick from the dust jacket on Message to the Black Man. This is James Baldwin in his book, The Fire Next Time. Elijah Muhammad has been able to do what generations of welfare workers and committees and resolutions and reports and housing projects and playgrounds have failed to do. He has done all of these things which our Christian church has spectacularly failed to do. Now, this man did what generations could not do. If he did what generations could not do, then who is this man and who is backing this man? But the reason, and Dr. Wesley brought it out when he first started, the reason is not because he gave us a motivational speech. The reason is because he put us in tune with our nature, and our nature is God. And in your nature, black man and black woman, is your real power is in your nature. So that's why he was able to make the great transformation that he was able to make and continues to make among our people.
Beautiful. Let me ask this question, and then we're going to take some questions from that have been posted in the chat, because I think we did a very good job of explaining the historical fact, this truth about the black man is God. What proof is there? You know, I've heard the examples in regards to the transformation of our people. Is there any historical proof that supports what we're declaring today about the black man being God?
Absolutely. Be real clear. So I was going to offer the caveat of something you said there, brother, Student Minister Willie. When you said the black man is God is a part of the reality of God, I would tweak that language a tad bit. Mm-hmm. Black man is God is the foundation of the truth of God. Mm-hmm. The proof of this truth, there is not a revealed religion that isn't rooted in this particular truth, not just that God is a man, not even just that man is God, but there is not a revealed religion that is not rooted in this specific truth that the black man is God. The Bible and Quran, the totality of their authentic indigenous theology versus the theology imposed on these books by Greek philosophy thinking readers from centuries later. But the natural theology of both the Bible and the Quran is anchored in a declaration made in both books that God, Allah, from the Quran, Yahweh Elohim or Yahu Elohim from the Bible, that God Most High entered earth in the body of a black human being. This is the foundational truth of all scripture, both Bible and Quran, that God entered the world through the body of a black human being. When I'll close up on this point, because you can go all over the world, and that's what the point of my book, the Book of God, an encyclopedia of proof that the black man is God. We went all over the world, every religion of antiquity.
Come on.
Prior to the assault of Greek philosophy. Every religion of antiquity affirmed and declared that the black man is God. So did Christians. When Genesis 1:26 says, let us make man in our image after our likeness, that's actually King James saying that. The scripture says, let us make Adam as, not in, as our Salem, according to our Demut. Though that is a very powerful, very, very pregnant, very specific declaration. Let us make Adam as to be, not according to be. He will be. This Adam will be our Salem. What is a Salem? Salem is a Hebrew word that has two specific meanings, both cult statue and black. Adam was made to be God's black cult statue on earth. What is a cult statue? In the context of the author of that text, in the ancient Near East, the cult statue was the earthly body of God himself. Now, in the pagan religions, the pagans worship their cult statues made of stone. Biblical and Quranic religion says, no, you cannot do that. You cannot make a cult statue of me from stone from your own hands and worship it. I made the cult statue. This black man, you worship him. That's the only legitimate worship, is the worship of the black statue, Adam, which is why in the Quran, Allah ordered the angels to worship Adam, the black statue. Beautiful. We could go all over the world to proof with proof.
Beautiful. And I want to mention this. There's an article, I think people can access it online. It's by someone by the name of John Moore. And listen to the title of the article. All, quote, all the gods were black with woolly hair, right? And in this article, Mr. Moore, he quotes someone by the name of Godfrey Higgins. And Godfrey Higgins wrote, the earliest messiahs, gods and goddesses on every continent were woolly haired black people, right? Then he goes further. He wrote, the originals of all the gods have been of the black race. So like this is not something that we're just making up out of our love for black people. This is a historical fact, scientific fact.
The whole world knew the black man is God, and all religion is rooted in ancient religion, not necessarily modern, but all ancient religion is rooted in this truth. Whether that ancient religion is in Egypt, in Africa, traditional Africa, whether it's in East Asia, China, India, whether it's in Arabia, all of the ancient religions are rooted in this truth that specifically the black man is God.
Good, thank you. Does any of the other panelists, before we get to some of the questions from those in the chat, want to share any other proof that you have from your research and from the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad? That
I would add, Minister Willie, from the world of science, it has now become a consensus that the oldest human beings on the planet are, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us, the original black people of our planet. The Discovery Channel several years ago put forth a documentary entitled The Real Eve. And this was a documentary that traced the mitochondrial DNA of all of the world's various races, ethnicities, and different people, tracing mitochondrial DNA, which according to biological science, traces matrilineal ancestry. And so it traced all of humanity back to an ancient black woman in Africa. And so if science has now concluded that the oldest human beings on the planet are the original black people of our planet, and the scriptures say that God created the oldest people in his own image and likeness. If the oldest human beings on the planet descend directly from God himself as a reflection of that God, then that God has to also be in resemblance to the oldest people on the planet. And so if the oldest people on the planet are black, then God has to be black from a scientific perspective. So again, science and the discoveries of modern day researchers is bearing witness to what Allah revealed to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that now the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is making that great commission known all over the world.
Can I just jump in real quick, just for the viewers, so we're all on the same page, because we don't want you all to think that we're into colorism and that we're black, so we're saying God is black because we're black. We're not saying God is black because we're black. We're saying God is black because that's a fact.
Right.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teach that when Allah created himself out of the triple darkness of the universe, and we're talking about a material darkness, because we know that scientifically matter is neither created nor destroyed, but you had a material darkness that had no purpose or function, and matter was reshaped and created this form that we call the human being. But because the matter came out of that dark matter of the universe, then the skin color, the tone of the original man was in fact a black man. And this is trillions of years, brothers and sisters, before this colorism that we deal with today became an issue. So we're not saying God is black because we're black. We want you to feel good about being black. It's all about black power. No, we're saying God is black because this is a scientific and historical fact. And I want to read something real quick just to touch and agree with my brother, student minister Dimitri, from page 244 of Message to the Black Man. He says, "We are the direct descendants of God, while those who have mistreated us and still do are the direct offspring of a rebellious scientist of God." So this is the knowledge that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad came to acquaint us with, which is the knowledge of self and the knowledge of God, which is one and the same.
Yes, sir.
And when you say that, I think about, because we live in this world where that has been hijacked and flipped inside out. You know, when people hear a statement that the black man is God, they immediately begin to start thinking, so that just means that God only care about one specific group of people. And that's that thinking, God is just, right? That thinking is a result of living in this world in which we live in, where they introduced us to a God where we felt like the God that they introduced us to was only concerned about one group of people on the planet Earth. So this is not that. Like, this doesn't, just because we're declaring the fact that the black man is God, that don't eliminate all of the other stuff that we know about God, his mercy, his love, his wisdom, and all of the other things as well. So that's important to know too. And I don't know if anybody else wants to add, but there's a question at the bottom by a brother. He says, Surah 55, verse 27, say the person / face of the Lord endures forever. Is this proof that the black man is God, since we're the only people who has been here and will be here forever?
If I may,
Anyone?
I was looking at the last question as well as this one. The last question was bringing to mind something that I had learned, heard at first in Catholic school, and this question ties right in when they talked about the pre-Adamites in Catholic school. They never wanted to deal too much with who they were. They just would acknowledge that there was some people here before these so-called Adamites. But in the Bible, where it talks about the making of the new man, it says, of course, let us make man. And the minister often lifts up, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He asks, who is the us? Who is this multiple of people? He said, the us is the original man and woman. And if we had power and dominion to give to them power and dominion over the fowl of the air and the fish of the sea and every creeping thing that crawls, then that shows that these are gods giving power to another people for a period of time. And to this question that is dealing with the person or the face of thy Lord enduring forever, then that too just acknowledges that in the beginning, God is a black man, and in truth, he will be a black man. And of course, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has lifted up the idea of all of the human family has the potential to manifest God's attributes, to manifest the divinity that is in our nature. But the black man, to be clear, in the black woman, is the original, is that being that carries the greatest capacity to carry the voltage, if you would, or the high power of the Spirit of God. And of course, that doesn't make us better, except to the degree that we would strive to be in harmony with our nature. But we absolutely have that capacity. We absolutely have that power in us if we would accept our own and be ourselves.
That's right.
If I may also add, excellent. There's really 3 clarifications that have to be made. This particular part of the discussion, reality of God, the black man is God, it's most prone to be, 1, misunderstood, and 2, misused, without a nuanced understanding and some qualifications. So allow me to offer those qualifications as I see them right now before we get to further into that particular question. The first qualification was hinted at by student minister Abdul, this colorism thing. And he appropriately disabused us of the notion that we, the Nation of Islam, are saying God is black because we're black. Well, the fact of the matter is, the oldest religion of white people had God as a black man at the center of the earliest Indo-European religion. as with the oldest literature of white religion. The oldest literature of Indo-European religion is the Sanskrit Rig Veda, which is associated with Hinduism today, but Hinduism as a theological system as it exists today evolved over time. The oldest religious literature of white people is the Sanskrit Rig Veda.
That's right.
And the God of the Rig Veda, the God at the center of white folks' oldest religion, is a black God.
Come on.
Not only is the God of white folks' oldest religion a black man yesterday, but the God of white folks' most secret religion, Jew and Gentile, today.
Come on.
Is a black man. The God of secret Judaism, Kabbalah, esoteric Judaism, that God, Adam Kadmon, is a black man. Fact. The God, the secret of the church, the secret of the Vatican, is revealed in an artifact that is hidden today under an elaborate throne at the Church of Basilica in Vatican City. It's hidden in an elaborate throne, but itself is a old wooden throne. But on that throne, it has the black god Hercules going through his 12 labors, and the inscription, La ilaha illa Allah. There is no God but Allah. In Kufic, this Kufic Shahada or testimony that there is no God but Allah can join with the depiction of Hercules, the black god of Greece, on a chair hidden in the church of the St. Peter's Basilica, Church of the Basilica in Vatican City. That's the secret of Gentile religion. So white folks' oldest religion and white folks' most secret religion is the black man as God. So it's not he's black because we're black teacher. The other qualification, if I may. One, God is in everybody and everything. This teaching does not suggest that black people are the only people that have divinity in us. All human beings have divinity, have a piece of a spark of God in them, even white people. The stone has a spark of God in it. Everything around us has God in it, but that's why God himself is the supreme being.
That's right.
Because there is God, there's divinity in everything, but there's levels to this.
Come on.
There are degrees of divinity.
That's right.
The singular being that has the greatest concentration of God in him is the black man and woman. That's why they are the supreme being, but that does not suggest that there is no God in anybody else. There is God in everybody and everything. The last point I will make, for some last qualification, some of us struggle hearing black people say the black man is God, because way too often it's niggas saying it. And you instinctively know that God ain't a nigga. And God is not a nigga.
Right.
We are not niggas, but your point, and your point is well taken. None of us, don't make the mistake of hearing the black man is God and then look at Brother Wesley. Because you'll be disappointed. Because Brother Wesley and all of us, we are fallen man. We are not in our state of godhood. While we are God by nature, we are not the living God. We are dead gods. But God, the supreme being, supreme in power, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, that one is black. We represent God in his fallen state. God is man in his awakened state. So I needed to put those qualifications out there.
Yeah. Now that was a good qualifications, especially in light of there's something that has our people attention right now that people are viewing, and I'm glad that you were able to say that, because what you say in a beautiful way, it explains. Don't look at the fallen man that we're seeing right now. We're talking about that this God that everybody, that they say controls everything that we see, right, is a black man, is simply put. Here's the next question that somebody has. Let me pull it up. You want to add to it. They say, is it true that the Nation of Islam is not the first to believe a black man is God?
I think Dr. Wesley already addressed that when he stated that all of the world's religions have at the center the reality of a black man as God. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to add, Brother Willie, to what Dr. Wesley beautifully articulated. 2 points. One point is that there's a lot of misuse and abuse of divine wisdom. We certainly have seen that in history as well as current. But when you see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who Allah is blessing to just in a few days to celebrate his 93rd birth anniversary. And we thank Allah for our beloved minister, Allah's anointed servant and Messiah among us. I think that the minister's life, the minister's work, and most importantly, the minister's way and the minister's character is for everybody who subscribes to the truth that the black man is God should study.
That's right.
Because he is providing for all of us the proper way in which to manifest our godhood.
That's right.
You know, it's amazing. I was sharing with some brothers the other day that Allah says in the Holy Quran that if he desired, he could make all the people believe. And, you know, as a teacher of the religion and as someone that is always seeking to positively influence the people in the direction of Islam, you know, you read those kind of scriptures and you say, well, Allah, we down here doing the best we can do. Why don't you just go ahead on and make all the people believe? Right. But, you know, the way of Allah is so beautiful that he is so tolerant even of those who don't believe in him.
Right. Right.
He don't just identify the atheists, right, and cut off their supply of oxygen.
Right.
You don't just identify the people, right, who believe in false gods and summarily remove them from the planet. And I believe there's a lesson in that for us. Because a lot of times, as Dr. Wesley pointed out, this kind of teaching is introduced by persons who are seeking to extol themselves above others.
That is right.
And to compel obedience to their will.
That is right.
And so again, I would say that Allah has given to us an example. He's the first, or I would say the second among us, that this teaching has made into a God.
That is right.
From those of us who have been resurrected from our fallen,
born from the dead. That's right.
You know,
come on, that's right.
And so this is a beautiful wisdom that must be properly handled in my humble judgment. It's that key. You know, when Brother Malcolm was assassinated, some of the newspapers were writing about Malcolm's miraculous transformation, and they were hoping that which produced that miraculous transformation didn't die when Brother Malcolm died. And so, you know, it definitely did not. And I would just say that this is the real key. This is it's an open secret, but the theology of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is that which produces the transformation that at this point the world marvels at. We all have friends and family members, uncles and aunties, cousins, nieces and nephews that their life was spiraling out of control. They were on a downward trajectory until they came into contact with the life-giving teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it wasn't that the white man was the devil. That didn't produce the transformation.
That's right.
On the contrary, it was that hidden part of the theology that they rarely ever talk about in mainstream spaces. I wonder why is that? I wonder why they don't want the masses of Black people to know, you know what? Yeah, the Nation of Islam, they speak truth to power. They are the strongest critics of the white power structure. But you know what? They also teach that there is a divinity resident within Black people.
That's right.
That if you cultivate it and develop it, we will be resurrected from the state of mental death and power. They keep the true power of this teaching hidden from the masses of our people.
That's
so
right.
I just wanted to add that log to the fire, because this is the most profound truth. In fact, in my humble judgment, when the Bible concludes in the book of Revelation, and it says that, and in that day, the mystery of God would be finished. I believe that what Allah revealed to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad about the Black man being God is the fulfillment of that scripture. For now, we no more have to wonder who is God or what is God or where is God. We have been given the truth of the reality of God. And for that, I say all praise belongs to Allah.
All praise is due
And
to
interesting, just to put something and add on to what you said about that chapter and that verse in Revelation. Is interesting. It's the 10th chapter, the 7th verse. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we talk about his date of birth is October the 7th. It's no coincidence. And here this man stands up before the world and challenges all of the religious world, even about the reality of God. Before we go to this question, somebody asked a question about, and it's pretty simple. I just want to respond to it, and then we get to a question. It said, would any of the panelists agree or disagree that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's 1991 address, "Who is God," is a great place to start to learn about God? And somebody said this. They said about, would any panelists agree or disagree that Rakim's song, "The Mystery of God," describes how scientifically the Creator birthed himself? In the Final Call newspaper, for one, anything that you can get your hands and your mind on by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that talks about the reality of God is definitely the best place to start. And they interviewed Rakim in the Final Call newspaper, and he talked about how it was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's that 1991 lecture that inspired that powerful song, "The Mystery, Who's God," where he talks about the self-creation. Because in that lecture, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talks about the self-creation of God and the Adam, and even how our birth, the reproduction process also what's the word? Not symbolizing, say, is it symbolizes?
Recapitulates
that. Now, somebody asked this question: being that they know I declare that the Black man is God, in times like this, how can we demonstrate that in the present tense with this wayward generation?
Yes, sir. If I may, and I was thinking on this line of thought as Brother Demetric and Brother Dr. Wesley and everyone were giving all of the powerful answers that have been given, in the thought that although the Nation of Islam may not be the first to teach that the Black man is God, certainly the messianic revelation that is given by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the track record of their work and the bearing of witness in those that come from their teaching and from their work, makes the Nation of Islam the foremost demonstrators that the Black man is God. When you look at all that the Elijah Muhammad has been able to do, all that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been able to do, is showing two black men raised from the mud that have are overcoming the greatest powers in this world. When you look at all of us who come up under this teaching, you're looking at men and women who are coming up from the mud of civilization, and with a teaching and a program from these two that are raised by God himself, you see those that were considered nothing overcoming this world. That's not just teaching that the black man is God, it's demonstrating the fact.
That's right.
Now, when we look at today's modern context, how can we demonstrate? I think that we demonstrate by following behind the two that have given us the perfect demonstration.
That's right.
Manifest our divinity. We got the Honorable Minister Farrakhan in our midst, who often reminds us, he said, I didn't fall down from heaven. I came up from the very same hell that you have come from. And as he has come up from that mud, come up from the hells of North America, we have a man in our midst who the enemy cannot bother. We have one in our midst who is speaking truth to power that they have not been able to touch, who is soon about to be 93 years young. And if we follow that example, I don't think that anyone can deny that there's God all up inside of us. When we overcome the bad habits of yesterday, when we come out of weakness into strength, when we get our families together, when we get our minds right, when we get ourselves moving on the right track, we demonstrate the attributes of God from our being. Where we once were demonstrating the lowest of the low, we begin to demonstrate the highest of the high. And then we can show our people better than we can tell them that, yeah, the black man is God. And if you follow this program, you'll see all of the Negroes, or the dead men and women of yesterday, becoming a nation of gods, and you'll see God's kingdom established on earth.
Amen.
Anybody want to add?
Yeah, I just want to jump in. I know I on that particular question, because there's a verse in the Holy Quran, several places in the Holy Quran, that says when Allah decrees a matter, he only says to it be, and it is. So this is the real power of God in the human being, is that the human being has the ability to conceive an idea, to will something into being, and to work that desire into the thing that is in their mind that is unseen, becomes a seen reality. So when Allah decrees a matter, he only says to it be, and it is. And what has all of us have this same power. The question is, what are we going to say be to? So if I say, well, I'm driving home from work and I want a bologna sandwich, I don't have, I know I'm with the Muslims, a avocado sandwich, right? I'm driving home from work and I'm thinking about an avocado sandwich, but I realize that I don't have at the house what is needed in order to bring what is in my mind into reality. So then what do? I go through a process to make sure that I have the bread, right? I have the avocado, I have the cheese, I have the this, I have the that. And I'm used to talking to black folks. I have the Kool-Aid, right? I got all of that. Now somebody gonna have a whole section in the chat about Kool-Aid. Brothers and sisters, we just relating to the people. But now I go through the process to bring out what I'm thinking about into reality. So now the process for everything you want to accomplish in your life, the process is the exact same. You think about it, you plan it, you take this step, that step. The only difference is the size of the goal that you're trying to accomplish. So if I say I want a car, now the process is going to be a little more than a bologna sandwich, right? But I still have to get a credit check and do this and do that and go around to different dealers. I have to clean my credit up, right? Make sure I get the best, whatever the case may be. So the process is the same, right? The idea starts in the mind. You will what you want into being. But, when we believed in the spook God, we thought that these things just happen miraculously. Like there's going to be an atmospheric thing that's going to bring about what we will, right? Or what we prayed to God for. And that's not how it works, because the power of God is in you right now to accomplish whatever's in your mind. So we can talk about this wayward generation. We can talk about them, but the question I want you to ask yourself is, when we look at this wayward generation, have they done what the Holy Quran said be to something, and then brought what they said be to in reality? So I work with young people, so this kind of sits different with me. So if I see them and they say, well, I want to go into music, right? And then they do their little videos, they put them on YouTube. And like today, and I know, brother, in Memphis, there's rappers right now with millions of views on YouTube, and the whole hood knows them, but they got millions of views, but we don't know them because they may not be on mainstream radio, whatever the case may be. But what did they do? They took the idea that was in their mind. They had that idea, and they went through the steps to bring their idea into reality. So now, do they have supreme wisdom? They do, but they don't, right? They have it on one level. They have the power of God within them to achieve whatever they want to achieve in their life. But what they don't have is what we talked about earlier, which is that civilizing teaching, which is what we have. But we see it all the time. We see it. And our brothers, I got to say this, because Dr. Wesley, I know you've talked about it before, and many others have. We see it with Joe Jackson. Richard Williams. These are examples that the black man is God. Richard Williams was sitting on the couch at his house drinking a beer. I forgot the white lady's name who was the tennis player, but she had just won Wimbledon, and she got like $50,000. And Richard Williams already had a daughter or two. And he was watching television, drinking a beer on the couch, and said that, man, this is a great profession for a woman to get into. He had the idea in his mind. And he said, I'm not going to have one daughter, but I'm going to have two daughters. Now, at the time that Richard Williams was drinking a beer on the couch saying this, his wife was on birth control. So what he had to lay his plan out to not get one daughter, but two daughters. So what did he do? He hid the birth control pills and didn't get her pregnant once, but got her pregnant twice. But that wasn't the end of it. That's where we would end it, right? But that's not where he ended it. And he got his wife pregnant twice and raised those two girls. And if you watch that documentary that they did on Richard Williams, he never allowed the white man to put a needle of doubt in the brains of his daughters. All they knew is that they were best, and that's all they knew. He brainwashed them to be the best in the world. And what happened? They became the best in the world. So we can say, oh man, this man was a wayward Negro on the couch drinking a beer. No, he was a God that had an idea and brought that out, not just once, brought it out twice and put his plan in place. And Joe Jackson did the same thing.
Absolutely.
So the power
great illustration.
Will and bring what we will into reality. And all of us have that power.
And when you look at it as well, we're taught, the Mosaic Elijah Muhammad talks also about how God means force and power, right?
That's right.
And when you look at our people, we are exhibiting force and power.
That's right.
The issue is that the force that's on our dome is not the divine supreme being, it's the devil. So we have been using that force and power in a negative sense.
Come on.
When you look at, we'll talk about a lot of the originator. He created himself out of nothing. And you look at our time here in America, we have example of black folks taking nothing and making something. That's right. In the Bronx, poverty stricken. Somebody say, give me one turntable, another turntable, right. And now they produce one of the most powerful hip hop forms the musical genres that exists.
That's right.
They gave us the scraps on the plantation. We took it and made what is now known as soul food, right? They're going to work with Timberland boots on. We take it and say, man, I'm about to make a fashion. And we make a whole fashion out of it. But the problem is, as the Honorable Minister Lord Farrakhan said, He who prescribes the diameter of our knowledge, right, determines the what? The circumference of our actions. So the goal is our people, and with all of us, even with this teaching, the full manifestation of the power behind the statement that the black man is God, it has to begin with belief in the one that came and made that known to us. Other than that, you're going to be just like the Mosaic Elijah Muhammad said in Message to the Black Man, when they try to graft themselves back into the original man, minus divine knowledge. They made a mockery of the original man. And when people try to take aspects of this teaching and not want to give honor to the one who came and the one he raised and the one that's in the midst and the moral and all other stuff that the other obligations that come with it, we can't manifest that full power, right? So if nobody else has any, you see the question in the bottom, if you want to answer, you want to add on to that. But the question is, do you think society can't come to grasp that the black man is God because the effort to discredit our contributions and inventions and culture that influence the world?
I definitely think that let's first of all, the world has come to grips with the black man is God, particularly the wise, the 10% and the 5%, as we are taught in our lessons. Different populations that comprise humanity, this knowledge is known. There's the 85% or the masses of the people that this wisdom is being kept from, and that's deliberate. It's by design, because even though, as we stated, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not create a concoction to address the socio-economic conditions of our people. However, it is true that this teaching has positively affected the socio-economic condition of our people. Why? It is because, as he stated in Message to the Black Man, the knowledge of self makes one take on the great virtue of learning. Right. And so those of us who have come to believe that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan teach is the truth, our own living standards, our mental health, our physical health condition, our family relationships, our standing in the community, our elevation through our respective professions or disciplines has improved. And there's a direct line of both correlation and causation from our improved living conditions to our acceptance of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So this kind of teaching, this kind of truth does have the powerful effect of causing one to meet and overcome negative circumstances in their life. So even though it was not authored for the purpose of just trying to be a reaction to white supremacists' teaching of Black inferiority, we now can see that this is a medicine that if we accept it, we begin to come into better health. So I think that the world, I don't know if this is a brother or sister, I can't see it, but the world that the questioner is talking about, if they're talking about the masses of our people, then without a doubt, the hiding of our achievements, the hiding of our accomplishments, as Minister Abdul talked about, the denigration of Black fathers who have given birth to gods. And on that note, I would just say that as a homework assignment, we would encourage the audience to review not only the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's 1991 Savior's Day, who is God, but also Minister Abdul reminds us in his brilliant commentary about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's series, How to Give Birth to a God.
That's right.
which is way ahead of its time, being delivered at the Final Call Administration Building before we reacquired Mars Marion. And now you have many different kinds of folk that are claiming to be subject matter experts on how to give birth to intelligent children, how to give birth to this kind of child, etc. But it was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that Allah revealed to him that series of lectures.
That's right.
That we should study, because I love that analogy that Minister Abdul provided, because sometimes when we think of a Black man being God, we only think of it within the confines of a religious understanding of what God is. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan described Michael Jackson as a God. And so there are manifestations of our people's greatness and brilliance, not just in religion, but in many various disciplines. And those of us who have accepted the truth of this teaching, we are also manifesting it in the various disciplines that we're involved in. So I put a pin in my comments, but I just was really appreciative of Minister Abdul's commentary regarding just how our people, whether they're religious or not, once they put their mind to a goal, once they commit themselves to meet and overcome circumstances, they exhibit God in their person.
Anybody want to add, or we go to this next question?
I would like to add something. It dawned on me, Brother Student Minister Willie, you put something out there that we did not pursue, but it must be pursued. You asked about 1991 Savior's Day, who is God? Mm-hmm. Knowing the little bit that I know about those of us on this panel, I think all of us will agree this conversation cannot be had.
That's a fact.
That moment in
That's
history.
a fact. That's a fact.
Some may know, have heard from me. I was a bitter atheist that hated religion. But I was there where I heard it. I was in Atlanta. I heard the satellite edition. It was satellited into Atlanta. One reason I hated religion, because I hated how religious people, being afraid of intellectuality, but me instinctively knowing that, well, damn, if there was a God, he had to have given this mind of ours.
Come on, that's right.
And religious people so afraid because their religion is false, so facts and truth was an enemy, and logic even was an enemy of their religion. They pushed back on the use of our mental faculties in religion. So I hated religion. When I saw Who is God by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that was a theological dissertation. I have never heard such a profound intellectual discourse on such a heavy topic. I left that venue in Atlanta saying, if I ever do religion again, I'm doing that man's religion. And I'm here 30 years later striving to one day do that man's religion, because his doing it made him the second God, living God born among this dead people. But that theological dissertation, Who is God, Savior's Day, 1991, by the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, is foundational to anyone seeking to get into this subject. You should start there. Start with Message to the Black Man, the book, and Who is God, the lecture. Those are the two pillars to start you and us.
That's right.
This journey.
That's right.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I have to say this, Doc. You know, you raise a very important point that I think is worth noting and emphasizing as we're on the eve of the minister's birth anniversary, and that is that without that lecture, without him, without his courage and commitment to, in the face of overwhelming opposition, to stand to rebuild the work of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, none of us are here.
None of us.
And not only the courage and the conviction to face death threats, to face poverty, to face all that he had to face, to stand up to rebuild the nation, but to do it without changing the teaching.
That's right.
To do it and centering the veracity of the teachings at the heart of the rebuilding work. That now I would hope that he would look at us and see that we are something from the harvest of his labor and his sacrifice.
Well said.
That he labored to ensure that the messenger's teachings were not discarded, were not thrown away, were not mocked, were not ridiculed.
Come on.
Were not insulted, but he stood.
That's right.
To rebuild the work of his teacher out of the love in his heart for his teacher and what Allah revealed to his teacher. So that we might be here tonight trying to represent not just what he has taught us, but also to represent his character to our people on this platform. So, man, we could never thank Allah enough.
Never.
No, that's
for
absolutely
what the minister has meant and does mean to us and to our people. And so we just thank Allah that he had blessed our minister to make it to this beautiful age, a young God at 93.
That's right. That's
that
right.
He gave us the messenger's teachings, pure, whole, and unadulterated.
That's right.
That we might feed from him. That we might then feed this to our babies.
Come on.
That they might grow and come into faith. And then we might endeavor to represent it in the public to our people. So we have to, and I thank you, Dr. Wesley, for raising that point, because, man, I was equally as impacted by Who is God. I mean, brother, that's like in the pantheon. I mean, you know, and it's hard to say this about the minister because, you know, every at-bat or every at-rostrum, you know, it's a home run exhibition. It's a clinic every time he mounts the rostrum, right? Absolutely. But 91 Savior's Day is hella special, man. It's hella special, brother.
We have about 30 minutes left, brother, and there's about 4 questions we want to get to. There's one. Can one of you all briefly touch on this by Sister Patrice? Are we to refer to ourselves as dead when we come into the knowledge of ourselves and God and strive hard to follow the teachings and submit ourselves to the will of God? Should we continue to refer to ourselves as dead?
I'll just give a brief shot at this, that I think, you know, when we come to accept the teachings, all of us who came in the ranks and got registered, we got into something called a processing class.
That's right.
That processing class is to begin us in the process of resurrection, the process of passing from death into life.
Excellent.
And that is something that doesn't stop when you get your X or you get Muhammad. It really is a lifelong process of passing from death into life.
Excellent.
The minister said we are returning to where we were before our fall 50,000 years ago. So we are now, even outside of processing class, I tell our brothers here where we labor up here in Michigan, I tell them, we're always in the process. Now, we may not be as dead as we used to be, but certainly we're not fully into the life and into the mind of God. We're not fully into the power of God. So, to the degree that we are yet falling short of that glory of God, then yeah, there's still some death that we are striving to overcome. But I would say that, as we refer to ourselves, we should refer to ourselves as those who are growing to become God, or as I once heard the minister say, with God in a human condition. We're trying to get out of the condition of this world, of what our people have been placed into. And the more we accept and apply what we are taught, the more life is in us. That's why we call it the life-giving teaching of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And to the degree that that teaching guides and directs our lives, I would say that to that degree we are alive. And the more we disregard the life-giving teaching, as I once heard the minister say, he said, every time I disobey what the honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching, paraphrasing, he said, I'm courting death. That the honorable Elijah Muhammad and his minister represents life to us. And really, as Moses told the people in the scripture, he told his people, choose life that you and your seed may live. And when we reject that, then we can be considered of the dead, even though we know better. We also have to, beyond knowing better, we have to do better with what we have been given. And that's a daily choice to live by what we have been taught, be disciples of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan. As I often lift up, it's interesting in the scripture that Jesus, he had, when he was performing his miracles and feeding people, there were thousands of people around when he had fish and bread for everyone. But when it came time to discipleship, there was only 12, just a few of those who were willing to really discipline their lives to be followers of the great master. So we have to be, if we're going to be considered the living, we have to try to discipline ourselves to the life-giving teaching coming from the man of God in our midst today.
That's an excellent answer.
Beautiful.
And I want to, another question someone texted me. They said, since everyone and everything has the spark of God, why do we say that the white man is the devil? Since everyone and everything has the spark of God, why do we say that the white man is the devil?
Devil is a god.
That's right.
The devil is the god of this world. He absolutely is a god. In fact, he can be considered the left hand of God.
Come on.
Yeah, he has God all up in him. He's not fully. We have, the black man has the dominant and recessive germ. We got left hand and right hand. He's the left hand of God.
Right.
He's God. He definitely has the spark of God in him. He's a God.
And I was going back as an adult watching the Star Wars movies, and you hear them talk about the force. And when I watched it as not as a child, I realized that, like the minister says, that there's only one reality, but determines how we use that force determines how it's going to be described, right, or categorized. And these are people who their nature and their entire being, they have used that force that God has given every living thing, but they've used it for evil rather than good. So therefore, what do you call it? You ain't gonna call it an angel. Right. Calling it, a devil is anything that's in opposition to God, and that's how they've used their force as an example for us that we don't do the same thing. Now, anybody want to add on before we go to this next question?
I think that's an important point, Minister Willie, because a lot of what the teachings does is it gives to us reality.
Come on.
And so a lot of times historically, I just have to speak for, coming up in the church down in the deep South, we had a concept of devil that, you know, he had a pitchfork. That's and right. He lived underneath the ground, and he was the curator and caretaker of hell, you know. And so, you know, then Hollywood came along and they put red pantyhose on it. You know what I mean? And so, you know, when you hear a black man say the white man is the devil, and that's your concept of devil, brother,
right?
That's frightening, you know. And so we had to learn not only the reality of God, but the reality of what is devil.
That's right.
One who is committed to rebel and oppose God and his divine will. One who refuses to submit to the will of God. So as the minister, again, going back to our illustrious teacher, 1997 Savior's Day, he, you know, gave us a teaser clip, if you will. He said, you know, when I come out Sunday, I'm going to introduce you to Satan, right? So when he came out, he gave a beautiful lecture showing how anytime a human being uses what the minister called deceptive intelligence to rationalize
that's right.
disobedience to God, we are being a devil in our own person.
That's right.
You see, so this teaching gives to us the reality of both God and the devil. It shows how the human being in his elevated state is a manifestation of God, but man and woman in our fallen state and our rebellious state are manifestations of the devil. And that don't matter what color you are.
Right.
Because he said that Prophet Muhammad was a white man, but he was a member of the black nation. So it doesn't matter what is the exterior color of your skin to determine whether or not you are manifesting God or devil in your person. But are you striving to live a righteous life? Are you willing to submit to Allah? Or do you, as many in power today, seek to make evil fair seeming and find a way to always rationalize the sin that you're involved in? You see, and that's why Dr. Wesley and many others who are in this season of time, or when Dr. Wesley talks, what I mean is Dr. Wesley talked about when he hated religion, that goes for a whole lot of people in today's time, because there are people in religion who claim God, but they rationalize sin and evil.
Right.
That's right.
They may say, well, I'm, you know, the chosen people of God, so I can commit a genocide against these people who not the chosen people of God. They may say that, well, you know, I'm a Christian, but I can condemn those that's not of my faith. Or I'm a Sunni and I can condemn those this Nation of Islam. You see, so the rationalizing of sin and evil is that which causes us to be a manifestation of that left hand of the divine spirit, as Dr. Wesley was talking about, Satan in our own person.
And I definitely thank you for that. And I definitely want to get this question in, because people, there are those who will hear this statement, the black man is God, and say that is anti-Islam. Can anybody talk about how that is not anti-Islam?
Sure.
Go ahead, Doc.
Sure. What was anti-Islam, I think we touched on it on our first episode. What was anti-Islam was Iblis not recognizing that the black man is God.
That's right. That's right.
Because Adam made from black mud.
Come on.
And then the tafsirs, the Muslim exegetes, tell us that black, at first, that black Adam was a statue. He stood immobile for months. He was a black statue consistent with the Hebrew term used in the Bible, Salem. God created Adam as a Salem, a black statue. That's what the Quranic exegetes, the classical Arabic Quranic exegetes, tell us was Black Adam's initial state as a black statue that Allah crafted. And then when he blew his breath into that black statue, put himself in it, it became alive, and he called the highest of his creation, his angels, to make prostration, worship, recognize that Black Adam as myself on earth, as Allah. That's Islam. Recognition of the black man as God. That's Islam. What is anti-Islam is what Iblis did. He refused to acknowledge that black man as God. So what masquerades today as Islam, it's not true Islam. What that Islam that is so offended by any black talk now.
Come on.
We can't be offensive with black talk if we're immature with it, if we mishandle it, if we don't properly nuance it. But that which passes as Islam today, they are offended by any black talk because they have become grafted as a phenomenally racist
That's
system.
right. That's right.
Let's be real clear.
Come on.
The rejection of black man is God isn't really theological. It has a lot to do with racism.
That's right.
That has hijacked white supremacy. That has hijacked Islam and has been choking the spirit out of true Islam for over a millennium now.
That's right.
Anybody else wanted to add to that?
Yes, sir. One thing that comes to Brother Dr. Wesley, of course, has always slam dunked it is, as I think of the Holy Quran, Surah 49, I believe it says that surely we created you into tribes and families that you may know one another. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stated that implies that there's differences among us, for if we were all the same, then to know one would be to know all. But it's because he created us different that we must come to know one another. He said that the Quran tells you that Allah did it, but it doesn't put there in the Quran how these different tribes and families came, these different colors came into being. Of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was given the knowledge of how that took place from Master Farad Muhammad, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has gone further to explain and clarify that reality. But when you couple that with what Dr. Wesley just stated, with regards to this black man being fashioned out of black mud into shape and the angels being made to bow to him, it's just saying, yeah, there's something different. There's something to be learned about this black man. And for those who would say it's anti-Islam, then of course we just got to consult the holy book. And of course the book lets us know, yes, that there's something to be understood here. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have further explained and put light on the light of the Holy Quran so that it might be made clear that it's not just talking about us being different, but this black man is the original man. He is the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the God of the universe.
Praise be to Allah. Anybody want to add before I ask this next question? All right. Well, here's a question. How can this teaching, or the lack of this teaching, is either way, how can this teaching help address the conditions that we see in our communities today? Or you can deal with it from the standpoint of how has the lack of belief and practice of this teaching contributed to the conditions we see in our community today? This will probably take us into the 8:30 mark.
I think that.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. You can go ahead, Minister Joe.
Brothers and viewers, everywhere the Nation of Islam has gone in the over 90 years, almost 100 years, that we've been present in America, in the worst places in prisons, in housing projects, in the worst schools, in the worst environments. Whenever the Nation of Islam goes into those environments, we transform those environments. Now, the sister asked about us being dead, and that's our state that the enemy put us in, right? A state of death. And we know that when something is dead, that you have to get rid of something that is dead, because the dead thing, if you leave it in your presence, it's going to kill the living thing. If your finger, we cut off the circulation in the finger and the pinky dies, and it doesn't get amputated, then the poison of death that is in the pinky is going to spread to the hand. And if we don't cut off the hand, then the poison of death that's in the hand will spread up the arm. And if we don't cut off the arm, it'll spread through the body. So anybody that is alive, you may love your mother, love your father, love your child. As soon as that person dies, then there has to be a separation between the living and the dead, or the dead will impact the living in a negative way, right? So, but now that's true in every situation except the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam is the only, and I gotta say this, the thing that I love, I was like Dr. Wesley when I came to the Nation. Like, I didn't want to be a part of a religion. Like, I wasn't coming to be a part of a religion. And the thing that appealed to me was the scientific, everything that we teach is rooted in science. And so we know that when the members of the Nation of Islam go among the dead people, our dead community, the death of the community does not affect us. The life that is in us goes and corrects the death that we see in the community. That in and of itself is a miracle, because that happens nowhere in nature. So, but we see that everywhere that we go. So when the nation was strong in the community, the music was different, right? When the nation was strong, as Dr. Wesley knows, because he was in Atlanta, the language that we use referring to one another was different. So our responsibility as followers of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, our number one mission is to give life to our people. And there is no death. There is no condition of a black man or a black woman that is so bad that the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad cannot impact that black man or woman. When the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan first came to the mosque when Malcolm was teaching, he talks about a reefer in his headband. If we could go back to 1955 and get that reefer and give it to a brother today, man, that wouldn't even affect it. They'd be like, man, what the hell is this? They would throw it on the ground. Because the enemy, in order to control us, that weed was good for 1955 to control those Negroes. But today, the enemy is not using weed from 1955. What they have today is a whole nother product, Percocets, everything that the enemy has dumped in our community to destroy the minds of our people. But the teachings are so powerful that it affected the minister in 1955 smoking that weed. Then it affected somebody in 1965 that was on heroin. Then it affected somebody in 1975 that was on angel dust and cocaine. Then it affected somebody in 1985 that was smoking crack. Then it affected somebody in 1995 that was smoking something else, right? Then it affected somebody in 2005 that was popping pills, right? Or drinking lean. So you mean to tell me no matter what the enemy puts on us to destroy us, that come on, brothers and sisters, this is unheard of in the history of the planet. This is unheard of. But that is the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and their ability to reach to the nature of the black man, the nature of the black woman, which is God himself, which is more powerful than any drug that the white man can manufacture. So all we got to do is be among our people.
Amen.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's a great segue to how I wanted to respond to that question. You know, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, in Message to the Black Man, he cited Henry Berry who, in the immediate aftermath of Nat Turner's rebellion, he argued as a Virginia state legislator that the real problem with what Nat Turner did had nothing to do with enslaved Black people having access to implements of war. This is an extraordinary admission, because I would think, I mean, a rational person would think that the real problem was that slaves got a hold of guns and knives and machetes and all of these weapons that they then turned on their masters.
Come on.
But in an extraordinary admission that is very revealing of the thinking of the white ruling class in America, Henry Berry argued thusly. He said, we've closed every avenue by which light might enter the mind of the slaves. He said that we need to go one step further to extinguish the spark of intellect that God has given them. He said, what we really have to do, we have to extinguish their capacity to see the light. He said, then our work would be complete, for then they would be on the level of the beast of the field. And at that point, we would really be safe. Now, what's extraordinary about Mr. Berry's statement is that in the English language, when light is used as a synonym for knowledge, he's not talking about the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Come on.
He's talking about cutting off access to divine wisdom from God, from being in the mind of a people that they had tormented, destroyed, and committed a genocide against. Now, in America today, light is present. And what Master Fard Muhammad brought to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that the minister has been the greatest and best exponent and promulgator of. That's just a fact.
Come on, that's right.
And yet, all of the good that Minister Abdul talked about, all of the power that Minister Abdul talked about, that's in the teaching, in its extraordinary impact on the so-called worst among our people. Look at the reaction of the enemy. He is censored. He has cut off access to the light in all mainstream spaces in his no platform strategy that he executes against the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I mean, the internet, you're allowed to have pornography, you're allowed to have violence. Young children are given hours-long access to video games where you can kill somebody and then press a reset button and they come right back to life, which that don't happen in real life. But these violence of video games desensitize our children. You can have sports betting online that ultimately causes poor people to waste their hard-earned money thinking they're going to get rich in online gambling. You have a smorgasbord of debauchery and of self-destructive access on the internet.
Come on, that's right.
But the one thing that violates community guidelines,
come
on YouTube, that violates community guidelines on Facebook, that violates community guidelines on Instagram, that violates community guidelines on Twitter X, is when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's lectures are put forth so the masses of suffering Black people might have ease of accessing them. You see? So to the question who's asking, what is the connection between this kind of teaching and the conditions on the ground in Black America? As Minister Abdul talked about, the benefit and the improvement of our people's condition when they have easy access to to the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan? What I'm saying is the savagery, the way many of our people are acting as though we're on the level of the beast of the field, is a direct line again of correlation and causation that can be drawn between the socially engineered savagery in Black America today and the high-level, high-powered censorship of the message of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. If you want to improve conditions in Black America today, allow Minister Farrakhan to teach freely over the airwaves. He won't just make a better Black America, but he'll even improve the condition of Caucasian people in this country.
That's right. Thank you, my brother. And we're going to close out on this question. I'm going to ask Dr. Wesley. I first came across this in your research. So can you talk about, you talked about this temple in the East Indies, and that there was this individual where these I think they're monks, they go and they pray. Can you talk about that and its connection to what we are taught with the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad and this topic that we're talking about right now?
Yes, sir. Well, what that is the temple of Kiakiat. It's a powerful illustration of the universal truth of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad on this point. Over in South Asia, in a country formerly called Burma, now called Myanmar, in a port city called Syrian, there's a Buddhist temple dedicated to Kiakiat. Now, Kiakiat means God of gods, because in this Buddhism, Buddha, they're not talking about the prophet Siddhartha Gautama, Buddha of the 6th century. This Buddha, Kiakiat, is God of the gods. It's the primordial Buddha. If you were to detour for a moment and travel to the city of Nara in Japan, there's a colossal statue of this primordial Buddha. It's a colossal black God. So go back to this temple of Kiakiat. The significant thing about this particular temple of Kiakiat, the God of the gods, is inside the temple, the God of the gods is sleep. There's a statue of him prone and he's asleep. And according to the Buddhists who worship at the temple of Kiakiat, the God of the god was to sleep for 6,000 years. After 6,000 years, this black god, Kiakiat, the God of the gods, will awaken. And during the 6,000 years he was asleep, a barbarian race took over the earth. When he wakes up at the close of 6,000 years, he shakes off his dust from the grave or from the sleep, sits himself back on the throne, and slaughters the barbarian race.
Wow.
Now everyone should catch that Kiakiat is the black god that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching about. The black god that was put to sleep for 6,000 years, and during his time of repose, a barbarian race was given rule on the earth. But after the 6,000 years are up, in the 7,000th year, the black god will be raised from the dead and put back on his throne. Kiakiat is the black man as God. This is such a beautiful illustration of the universe. As Brother Minister Abdul said, this teaching ain't colorism.
Come on.
Because the Burmese aren't so-called Negroes in America, but their God is the black God, Kiakia. It wasn't so-called Negroes in America who erected that colossal black god in Nara, Japan.
Come on.
The black man is God is not a psychological teaching. It's a verifiable universal fact.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
I think that can take us home. That can take us home with that one, my brothers. Thank you all, man, for your time, for your sharing with what you've learned from the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, your spirit. And we are thankful for each and every person who has left a comment, asked a question in the comment section, and those who are actually viewing right now, and those who are going to view this even after, as it's going to be online. And the purpose of this is we want to put something out there where people can get an understanding of the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad on these critical areas from people who believe and have studied the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad. Because I remember one year, Doc was one of these people who he was debating, quote unquote, ministers in the Nation of Islam. And as I was watching the video, as they got up to confront this, to debate this pastor, it was clear that they didn't know the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, and they had to admit that. And some people do that. They get this. I think it's called it's called a straw man argument.
Knowledge, more spirit,
that's how it,
than knowledge of the teachings.
That's it, and that's the thing. So we thank you all, and keep your eyes open, your eyes and your ears open, so you can find out what will be the next focus, and what you'll find out if we continue with this one or whatever we